Hello, welcome to this West London Sport QPR podcast. I'm Dan Bennett. I'm joined by Ian McCullough and former QPR striker Kevin Gallen. Disappointing result last night for QPR, obviously losing 3-1 away at Nottingham Forest. I suppose the potentially worst though is the injuries that QPR have now got. You know, David Marshall going off late in the game with a hamstring injury. You know, we're given the other goalkeeper problems as well. That's looking really, a real dilemma for Mark Warburton about actually what he's going to do there. And obviously Chris Willock as well going off in the first half. So it wasn't just the defeat, it made worse by those injuries. But I mean, I suppose, Kev, I thought the first half was maybe better than a lot of what we've seen recently. I thought, Willock was really on it first half, which probably made him going off injured, all the worse because he was playing really well at the time. But I mean, how did you see it? What were your thoughts on the performance overall?
I thought we started the game really well, actually, the first 10 minutes. I thought, like you said, we looked well up for it. A little bit of a different sort of players, but also they put Dickey into the centre and Dunn into the right side and Sanderson come in for Barbet. I think they've done that because of the pace of a bit more pace down the left-hand side, maybe to help Wallace with Spence bombing down there all night long. I thought we passed the ball well. Created, really should have scored before we did score. I mean, Amos, it's a really good chance. And then unfortunately Wallace couldn't sort of sort his feet out and get the next chance, and the keeper's made a decent save. And we started well, and then we scored, and obviously I thought it was a good goal, good move, great pass by Chair. Andre Gray looked a lot better the last two games than what I've seen all season. He's making runs in behind. He's trying to hold the ball up. He's looking more energetic, and he's got 2 goals in 2. Is it 3 goals in 3 games?
3 goals in 3, yeah.
So his confidence is sky high at the moment, and it looks like a weight's been taken off his shoulders. He's running about a bit more energetic, and then they're a good team. There's no doubt about it. They're at home. Good crowd behind them. Ian was saying just before we came online that it's very partisan, get right behind the team, 27,000. So it was a tough game. They got some good players, and then Spence, scores an absolute worldie, doesn't he? I mean, no one's stopping that. It's like it's going over the bar and it dips right in the top corner. And then a little bit disappointing, when you concede from a corner. It's a poor goal because it's not even a good corner. He's hit the near post, and the near post man. When I used to play at QPR especially, and I used to come back for defending corners, which I always hated, because a bit of extra running involved, and you want to sort of save your energy for going forward. But I always used to put myself and say, look, I'll do the near post area, and the near post area is basically no one gets in front of you. No, it's like a cardinal sin. No one gets in front of you. If that ball comes in low, you're first away to clear it, or even like in the air, no one should be getting in front of you. You always like 4 or 5 yards ahead of the nearest man, just to give yourself a little bit of room. And it's a poor goal, Dickey, unfortunately for Dickey, but I was more concerned about who's doing that near post area. And then the last goal, I mean, the keeper's made a great save, but he's aggravated his hamstring even more, and then Johnson's then hit it, and he can't even move. So it's a tough game. It was a tough. I mean, 1-1 would have been a great result. I mean, I think we were talking about it a week ago. If you went into the Fulham and the Luton and Nottingham Forest games, 2 tough away games, and you come away with 4 points, you'd be happy. And unfortunately, we've come away from 3, but we beat Peterborough on Sunday, and it's 6 points from 9, and it ain't bad. Yeah,
it just seemed like one of those games where, I mean, I thought Forest were probably better second half, but overall, just the moments went against QPR, and just luck wasn't on the side. Obviously, with the injuries, I mean, that was massive. The 3rd goal, like you just said there, Marshall couldn't even get back up, could he, to try and save it? And with Willock going off as well when he was playing so well, and the Amos chance was massive. I mean, he's got to put that away. I think QPR go 1-0 up at that stage in the game. It's completely different, and maybe they come away with at least a point, So I just think it was one of those days, really. But were you surprised, Kev, by the team selection? Because he went with Dezelle and Amos in midfield, left Hendrick and Johansson on the bench. you think it worked? Like, were you a little bit surprised when you saw it?
A little bit. I thought Amos coming in is a good because he's got good legs and good energy. Gazelle at the moment, his mobility is a little bit lacking, and that needs to really improve. And if you're playing against a team that moves the ball around us quickly and on a big pitch like Nottingham Forest, then you've got to have mobility in the midfield. And maybe I was chatting to a friend of mine this morning about it, a QPR fan. Maybe it was like, especially the subs, maybe it was when it was 1-1, maybe it's like a Don Ball, bring Don Ball on just to shore it up and make it difficult for the opponents. I don't know. It's easy to talk about in hindsight, but I think he probably just went for maybe a bit more legs and youth in midfield. And it worked in the first half because we kept the ball and played well, but there was times when, you know, they were running past us and we were giving fouls away and getting bookings and this, that. So it was difficult to, you know, in hindsight, say, should have done this, should have done that. We did have a good first half and we started the second half pretty well, but then I think they just sort of overran us a bit in the last 30 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, Ian, you went over to the game. What did you make of the team selection and as well, like the substitutions? I mean, there was a fair bit sort of said from the fans after kind of questioning bringing on Hendrick and Johansson. What did you kind of make of those changes in the way that the QPR started the game as well?
I thought he picked the right team. I thought it made sense to have Sanderson in there with his pace. I thought he kept Brennan Johnson pretty quiet, really. And I thought Dickie and Dunn kept Keenan Davis pretty in check. He didn't, you know, he had a couple of snapshots, but he didn't really cause them many problems. And they were doing well. I mean, really, Forest were the better side towards the end. But yeah, you're 7 minutes away and it's 1-1, and your keeper injures himself and it's 1-1. You know, and you lose 3-1, and it's one of them, isn't it? As for the changes, I mean, Dazelle was on a booking, Field was on a booking, and I think Amos, if he wasn't on a booking, he may have been, you know, close to getting a booking. So you got that, and they're very mobile in midfield. And Wilson said afterwards that the plan was to really press them in midfield and counter the, you know, their dynamism in midfield by playing Amos and Dazelle with Field, and it did work. Although I mean, again, Dazelle, I've said before, I'm just not convinced he's good enough at this level. You know, he's neat and tidy on the ball. He does a few nice things, but he just gets run off the shoulder too easy. Teams just run past him. You know, and I thought Sam Field did a lot of his running, covering, you know, the gaps that Dazelle was leaving. Amos was good. Again, he's got to score that. And if he doesn't score it, Wallace has got to score it. You know, you score that 1-0, you go 2-0 up. It's a completely different game, isn't it? And the changes come on. The pitch was really, really heavy, really heavy. You know, it's rained all day. It's a heavy pitch. It's next to the River Trent. I think he took them off to save legs because they got a game Sunday. Did they lose a little bit? Maybe. But I don't think the reason they lost the game is because he brought in Hendrick and Johansson. I think it's a little bit unfair for people to say that. I just think they scored that goal with Spence at the right time. I think if it was another maybe 10 minutes and it'd been 1-0, I think they were running out of ideas a little bit. And then, you know, he scored a goal like that. It's an absolute world-class strike. You can't really blame anyone for that. It lifted the crowd. The crowd then really got into it, and they kind of got a second wind after that, really. And, you know, Rangers were very much second best after they equalised. And but yeah, the injuries to Marshall was huge, really. You know, you use 3 subs and you end up with your left back in goal. It's not ideal, is it? But and you just got to hope that the injury to Willock isn't serious, because he was outstanding. They couldn't live with him in the first 20 minutes. He was, you know, the way he's running their defence, they were struggling to cope with him. And for Andre Gray was excellent. I think with him, he touched on it last week. I think he needs to run of games. You know, he hasn't played. He's been in and out. He's sort of starting games on a sub, and he's looked really good the last 2 games against Luton and Forest. And yeah, that pace looks to be back, the power, the movement, the willingness. You know, hopefully that's from a Rangers point of view, that's kind of kickstart sort of the run they need from a striker. But yeah, it's a disappointing result. But I mean, I thought there was more positives than negatives, and it's one of the better performances of recent weeks.
Yeah, it's interesting with Gray. I mean, it's all come about all quite suddenly, hasn't it? Because he was like on the bench, not even really playing, like going unused as a sub some games, and now he's come into the team and started scoring and has looked really good. So I mean, it's happened exactly the right time as well, with obviously Austin being out ill and Dykes being out injured as well. So yeah, hopefully it continues. But I just want to comment to the goalkeeper situation. Obviously, like you said, 4 goalkeepers out injured now for QPR. And I mean, Mark Warburton said to you, didn't he, Ian, after the game that, you know, they had 4 wing backs out injured earlier in the season, and he's just never seen anything like it. That they've had 4 goalkeepers all out at the same time. And I mean, he sort of said to you, didn't he, as well, that they were kind of looking at an emergency loan deal. I mean, I was sort of having a look around last night because I wasn't sure exactly what the rules are. So there I was reading EFL regulations at about 10:30 just to see if I could try and make sense of it. But from what I gathered, it's you're allowed to have one if you've got no professional goalkeeper available, and that's like a player who's started at least 5 or more professional games in that country. So I would have thought Dylan Barnes would come into that if he's registered, but from what he was saying, he seemed to think they could get an emergency loan, not from the Premier League. I mean, do you think, Ian, that's something he should look at doing if it's possible? I mean, he seems to think that they can. So,
well, they have to, don't they? You can't.
Well,
I mean, you're going in the weeds a bit there with regulations about EFL. I've got no idea, to be brutally honest. I don't even know who Dylan Barnes has played for. If I'm being, is it Aldershot or something like that? Are they
well, he played for Colchester before QPR, and when they're in League Two, and he started quite a lot of games there. So I'd have thought they would have had to play him.
Know. The honest answer is, mate, I honestly don't know. But he seems to think that they can get one.
I mean, he knows better, doesn't he? You'd have thought if he said that they could get one, they can. But I mean, do you think that is something they should do rather than play Barnes?
Well, they have to. Yeah, they need to get a goalkeeper in. The issue they've got is, I mean, they can't. There's some weird rule that you can't loan you can't loan players in from the Premier League even on emergency loans goalkeepers.
Right.
Warburton's fearing that he doesn't think anyone from the Championship is going to be willing to loan QPR a goalie. So then where do you go there? You kind of have to maybe look at the bigger clubs in League One, maybe see what Ipswich, Sunderland, Wigan, these types of clubs, what have they got anyone you can maybe pick off? It's not an ideal situation, is it? I mean,
no, it's not at all.
You know, you never hear a goalie's getting injured. You don't, do you? So 4 goalies injured in you know, as Kev said before, they're not even real footballers. It just
well, the hamstring one's is big difficult because they don't really do much running. Obviously, yeah, it's a strange one. They're gonna. I don't like if you can't get one from the Premier League and then Championship. Who's going to help QPR out in the Championship? Now, the only one really would be Fulham, but they're not because they're sort of rivals, local rivals. But because they're so far and away ahead, but I can't see any other team like lending QPR goalkeeper. And then you're going down to like League One, and the top teams in League One, they have to be their third choice goalkeeper. And is a third choice keeper in League One going to be good enough?
Is he going to be better than Dylan Barnes? You know what I mean?
Well, a third choice goalkeeper in League One, he's either third choice because he's a young kid, or he's third choice because he's on too much money and he's been bombed out by the like trying to get rid of him. That's the only thing I can see is like we need to get some money in, as in free up some wages because we've got a goalkeeper and we don't really need him.
Yeah.
But then, like you said, he's going to be better than Dylan Barnes. Well,
but I mean, it's sort of like you look at someone like Forest, who've got about 8 goalkeepers on their books.
Are they going to lend us one?
I don't know.
I don't think they won't, will they?
Why would Forest help us to be?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. The only team that might is Fulham, but they won't because they're a West London rival. They're South West London, but they're near enough. But because they're pretty much going to get promoted, and they might think, well, if we lend QPR goalkeeper, it will keep the other teams sort of away from us. It's a difficult one. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't sure. Maybe like a team in the bottom half might do it because I take obviously Blackpool for example, and you know, any excuse to get them in. But we've got a couple of backup goalkeepers that aren't playing, and you know, if I was the manager, maybe I'd think, well, you know, they're not playing. Just end of the season, we're going to finish mid-table. I mean, I suppose we've got an very, very slim outside chance of hoping to make a playoff push. That might come into it. But if I think, why not just let them go out, play for a month, you know, help out another team. So maybe they would do that. But
we do you a favour, and then we want to sign one.
And there's only a few teams that would actually do that. I think because obviously the teams at the bottom, they're worried about their survival. The teams in the top half, they all want to push for the playoffs and won't want to help QPR. So what you've got a handful of teams that might do it.
The case is just coming to red. A team in mid-table. We've got a good goalkeeper, young goalkeeper. You can have him for a month, but in the summer we want first on George Thomas or someone, or someone like that.
Yeah, something like that could happen, I suppose. Yeah, I suppose.
But I mean, it'll just come down to the base that. I mean, you might see someone on League Camp, someone who's not, not fixed up with the club might come. I don't know. I mean,
that's what David Marshall was, wasn't he? Guy coming. I mean, he had a club, but an experienced goalie just because they needed cover, and he's ended up being the first choice. And it's just mad that they're in that same situation.
Yeah. And you look at it really from a goalie's point of view. He's sort of a chance of playing a team that's challenging for promotion when you're not actually getting a game. It's sort of Rangers are. There won't be any shortage of players that want to come, but it all comes down to the logistics of who and where they are. And
David Seaman might be available.
David Seaman, yeah. Bob Wilson.
Chilton's not doing much at the moment.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see on that. And obviously, it's a very tight turnaround until the next game, so they haven't got much time to kind of move on that. So who knows? There might even be some news by the time this comes out. We'll have to wait and see. But the other injury as well, obviously a bad one. Chris Willock. I mean, I don't know if it's a bad injury, but obviously a bad in the sense that he's probably been QPR's best player this season. Went off after about half an hour, wasn't it, with the hamstring injury as well? Like you said, Ian, heavy pitch, wasn't it? And I think Warburton said to you after that they've kind of paid the price for that, maybe hinted that might have had something to do with the injuries. I mean, Cher, I think, played well when he came on. Obviously, like you said, Kev got really good assist with that pass. He's obviously going to come in now, but if Willock's going to miss game time, and like I said, we don't know how bad the injury is yet and whether he's going to have to miss games, and hopefully with the international break coming up, that should help QPR out. But how do you see sort of Mark Warburton approaching that one if Willock's going to miss game time? What would you like to see him do?
Well, I thought Willock was having a really good game, and he was sort of patrolling that sort of inside left position that Chair's been occupying since he's come back, and which he does. And it probably suits Willock's game that Chair isn't playing. If he gets more of the ball, gets, the chance to. They both want to come on they're right footed. They sort of play on that inside left position. They both want to come inside and have a shot or link up with the centre forward. Now Willock's, I hope it's not a bad one, but I'm just because of what I know about hamstring injuries and they're difficult. You've got to be 100% with a hamstring injury, and they can go like that. You think you're 100%, and then you go for a sprint, and it just goes again. So you've got to be very careful. And Willock, he has been our best attacker, or best player. I'd say he's been our best player. He's definitely been our best attacking player this season. So he's going to be missed. They've got to be careful. I'd be very surprised if he plays on Sunday. So you've got the international break. It will be really good if he's back for them sort of set of games and the run into the end of the season. But I think Chair will just come in and play in that position, and it'd be interesting. What will he do? Will he play more? Will he play Field, Amos, and Johansson a little bit further up, where it gives him more license to play in the opposition half and not doing what a normal centre midfielder is, up and down like box to box, where it probably would suit Johansson at this stage of his career, where he's sort of the playmaker in the sort of last half of the pitch going forward. So it's interesting to see. I think it's a big blow for the next game, because Willock's been our best attacking player all season.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Oh, I've got a couple of questions that we didn't get to last week. I thought would be quite good to come on to, because we obviously didn't have time to get through them all. So Leo Phillips asked on Twitter that bearing in mind the going rate and relative scarcity of strikers these days, what do the WLS chaps think our approach should be to recruitment in that area? And he also adds, imagine how much our 03-04 front line of Gallen, Furs, Thorpe and Curitin would be worth today. How much do you reckon you'd be worth today, Kev? No, I mean, what?
We're worth nothing. That's why I'm talking to you guys.
I mean,
regarding who we're going to sign for next season, well, I think there's going to be quite a bit of a change around. there would need to be a striker, fullbacks. I mean, Wallace keep going for another season? McCullough goes back. Moses was his Uncle Albert? That's what I call it, Albert. He's getting on a bit. They're going to use him again as a wing back. So I think wing backs, striker. Depends what happens if anyone comes in for Willock. Will they go for another sort of number 10? Yeah, I think there'll be quite a big turnaround again.
Yeah, I mean, specifically that in the striker area that Leo asks, I mean, because obviously Dykes has come in for a reasonable amount of money and done like pretty well, I'd say, on the whole, even though he's missed a lot of game time. That's been the big thing with him, hasn't it? Obviously Gray's come in on loan as well. Charlie Austin, they managed to get in on a free. Do you think they've done well with that recruitment in that? Because it's very hard, like you said, to get good strikers nowadays on, deals that are friendly for the club, isn't it? Like, do you think they've done the right thing with what they've done? Everyone's
looking for strikers. If you speak to any club and you're like at a match and you say, what are you looking for? Everyone just says, well, I need a striker. It's like people used to say when I was playing, like coaches at QPR and Jerry Francis, you're only as good as your strikers. There's a lot into that comment. You're only as good as your striker. You've got strikers and you can score goals. It takes the pressure off the whole team.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be one of the big things looking ahead to the summer. Obviously, we don't know what division they'll be in. Got Premier League hope still, so that will be definitely a big thing, because we'll expect obviously you've got Andre Gray will go back and they will be a bit light in that area. I'll come to you on this one, Ian. John Sharp says, do you think the team is overachieving when you consider the budget compared to other sides with parachute payments?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I do. I think expectation was huge at the start of the season, justifiably. They finished well last season. I think the manager come out and said, we're pushing for the playoffs. This is where we want to be. And but yeah, I mean, I always say this when people go, oh, look, Fulham. Harrison Reed cost more money than the entire starting 11 that QPR put out last night. So when you're looking at it from that perspective,
yeah,
they're doing pretty well. I mean, Harrison Reed cost £7 million. Good player, but that's more than the entire starting 11 that QPR fielded last night. So it's in that respect they are overachieving. But yeah, I was talking to a mate of mine the other day who's a season ticket holder, and he was sort of saying, regardless of what happens this season, it's been a great season. It's been entertaining. They're winning games. They've been there all season. If they don't go up, it will be disappointing. But I don't think it will be a disaster if they don't go up. Personally, I think they're in a position where if they have to sell someone, they've got assets they can sell, you make good money on, and then you can buy a striker. You can go out and buy sort of a couple of wing backs. So I think they're in a good position either way. So yeah, I do think they have.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, compared to where they were, year and a half ago, things were looking a lot more bleak then. So
I certainly think if Bournemouth don't go up, or I think there's more pressure on Forest to go up than QPR.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think they're really on the cusp of FFP woes at Forest. They got a lot of players last night that are on loan that they want to keep, but they had to get permission from the EFL to sign Steve Cook because they're that close to going over FFP. And their response to that apparently was, well, if we don't go up, we'll just sell Brennan Johnson for £15 million. So I think Rangers are in a better position than a lot of clubs up there as to what happens going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote something for the West London Sport website the other day where I basically said what you just said, that there's a lot of clubs in the Championship that should feel a lot more aggrieved than QPR if they don't get in the playoffs because of the money they've spent. But I think, overachieving, I'm not sure I'd use that word, because when we did our predictions at the start of the year, we all sort of thought that QPR would be in for a shout at the playoffs because we thought the team was good enough. So they're not overachieving in that respect. But when you bring the finances into it and how much they've spent, then they are definitely, punching above their weight for the budget.
Anything as well, like you lose your goalkeeper, first choice goalkeeper to injury at AFCON. You lose Ilias Chair to AFCON. You got players. I think they and they're still there. They're sixth. So with 9 games to go. So you
all to play for still. They're taken out the start of the year, I think. Yeah, definitely. All right, we'll move on to some predictions then. Obviously, Peterborough coming up on Sunday, rock bottom of the Championship, and so I went through their results before this, and I apologies if I've got my counting wrong, but I went through all the games and I counted 15 league games that they've not won for. So unless I've missed one and I've got that wrong, apologies. But that's what I counted, and my maths isn't great, so not 100% reliable. But I think that's what they have. So, I mean, you back in a QPR win for this one, Kev? I mean, but I suppose the only thing is that they've been QPR's bogey team this year. They've beaten them twice, once in the league and once in the cup, quite unexpectedly. So does that throw a bit of doubt on the game?
I tell you what throws more doubt on it is that they haven't won. And seen over the seasons with QPR, and it's happened this season, Barnsley, but I remember a few seasons back was Rotherham. But those games I'm talking about were away from home. I mean, I think QPR will win because we've got a better team than them, and we're 6 and they're rock bottom. So I've got to be confident that we'll win, and I think we'll win 2-1. I think we'll just, if he picks the right team, whichever. The right team is always the team. The team, if it wins, that's always the right team. But if he picks the right team, we'll win the game. They're rock bottom for a reason, because they're the worst team in the division. We're 6. We haven't been playing great. I don't think we did. We had a good half an hour last night. Half an hour, 40 minutes, the best that we probably played since Reading. I think we should win. We're good enough. The only problem is that we got a goalkeeper.
That's what I was going to say. That's the big thing, isn't it?
You need to get a goalkeeper in, and obviously of some stature, because we're going for the playoffs, for the Premiership. We're 6, and as Ian said, and I think you said that if at the start of the season we're coming in the middle of March, would you have taken 6 at this stage of the season? I definitely would. So get a decent keeper in, and I think we'll win the game.
Yeah, so I think it's either, there's like 3 options, isn't it? It's going to be Barnes, Mahoney, or an emergency loan deal. That's essentially, I think, the options that Mark Warburton has got in goal. What are you saying for this one, Ian? Does that, obviously the goalkeeper situation is massive, isn't it? That, because you need a good goalkeeper to play in the Championship, regardless of whether they're bottom in the league. If you don't have a good enough goalkeeper, you're going to struggle, aren't you? If they're going to.
I think at this stage you just need someone that can catch the ball and kick it. Seriously,
can you do that?
Well, what are you going to get?
Pat Jennings?
You're not. Yeah, you know what I mean. You're not going to get a top class goalkeeper.
Yeah,
on an emergency loan in March from someone that's likely to be in League 1 or League 2. Or is a free agent that hasn't played for 3 months. But you're playing a team that's bottom of the league at home. You're at home. You'd hope that the defence in front of him will kind of keep him quiet. Peterborough aren't very good away from home. They're a bit different. They're a different side at home. They had a good draw at Bournemouth last week, I think. So, they're fighting for their lives. They won't make it easy, but you'd fancy Rangers being at home. They should win.
What's prediction? What are you saying?
I'll probably go 2-0.
2-0.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the goalkeeper concerns, I said, is massive. Like that, depending on what options they've got and what the option is in that area, that is huge. It's hard to make a prediction without knowing who they're going to play in goal. But I'm going to be like you two on the optimistic side for QPR and say 3-1. I do think Peterborough struggled massively this season. I do think they're good enough, and hopefully, if the goalkeeper option they've got isn't quite up to it, like you said, hopefully the defence can just lock Peterborough out and make sure he doesn't get tested too much. That would be what they'd have to do, I think.
What I don't understand is I don't understand why you can't loan someone from a Premier League team. Is there any, Kev, do you know that? Is there any reason for
no
that?
Idea.
Which is
ridiculous
for all that, because a third choice goalkeeper at, say, Man United, Liverpool, Man City, if they're a young one, come down and play towards a team that's going for the playoffs. It's a great experience for them. And for their development as well. It'd be great experience, great for their development. And
I didn't know that was a rule. It does seem strange.
It'd be a win-win for QPR and that the club and the player and the goalkeeper.
Seems ideal for both parties in that situation. They would work. So I don't know. I didn't know that was a rule, to be honest, until Mark Warburton said it to you last night, Ian. So very strange, but yeah, great. Well, thanks for watching. Let us know what you think about what we've spoken about today in the comments below, and please leave a like and subscribe to the channel as well if you've not done already, and we'll be back with another video soon.